Baldur's Gate 3 is having some problems right now. There are a ton of fans that are very upset with Larian and the current state of the game. Patch 6, which just dropped a little over a week ago, introduced quite a few new major issues, and some are calling this the worst state the game has ever been in. And while Larian has been quick to start hotfixing some of these major issues, many others still remain. And even some of their community responses have been quite incendiary, as now several mod authors in the community are angry with some removing their mods and even some of the community guides, and all of this is going on right as Larian just made a gigantic announcement around mod support for Baldur's Gate 3. So needless to say, a lot of people are unhappy and we have a lot to talk about with this video. The core of these issues began right after the release of patch 6. Many users almost immediately started to recognize that the game just wasn't really working properly. One of the most frustrating but also hilarious bugs that popped up is you can now accidentally make the entire world hunt you. It seems like this will most often happen right after you deal with the Steel Watch Foundry. But after wrapping up that quest, there was a bit of an issue where now everywhere you'll go, you'll be trespassing, which effectively means that immediately upon walking into basically any area in the game, all of the other NPCs will just attack you, since, yeah, they think you're trespassing. And this becomes even funnier because this also includes your own camp, as you could have party members jump in on the attack. But okay, that was just for one specific quest. Unfortunately, even beyond that, a variety of quest activators seem to have just stopped working after this update. So some players aren't able to do certain quests at all right now. If you try and recruit Lae'zel using this new party dismissal mechanic, you will immediately block her quest from being accessible. Lots of users report not being able to summon allies at all during the final Netherbrain fight. This Cazador fight is no longer ending properly or really ending at all. You can take out everyone and get him to minimum HP, and he just kind of sits there in perpetuity as you end turn over and over, but nothing actually triggers. And PS5 users are reporting soft crashes of the game as they're speaking to the game right around her major quest in Act 3. And other users just report not being able to speak to her at all. There's some general soft lock issues not tied to specific quests, so non-top characters are just not working properly. There's been quite a few reports of characters not following the party anymore. They'll just kind of stand there as everybody walks away from them. And with Minthara particularly, it seems like she has a lot of bugs around her right now, with one of the most obvious examples being she will just always repeat the same voice line over and over again, but otherwise not actually do anything. Although, funny enough, Minthara also has the exact opposite issue where sometimes she'll say too much. There's also a bug where immediately after recruiting her, she'll start playing voice lines that are meant for much later in the game, like later in Act 2 or even in Act 3. So in turn, immediately after recruiting her, she'll start feeding you a bunch of spoilers. There's some kind of bug with people getting stuck in combat. So a character gets locked, you can't actually switch to other characters, and you also can't end the turn. You basically just have to restart the game and re-enter into combat. I'm showing you some footage from a past build of the game where this bug occurred, but it's also being widely reported for patch 6. And in a rather surprising twist of fate, quite a few users are reporting that several of the bugs reported as fixed in the patch notes are actually now occurring for them for the first time. One easy example is there's many users reporting that enemies are now, after patch 6, attacking them through the floor, which was one of the things patch 6 was supposed to fix. And just in general, there's been a lot more crashes and general instability with this game. Originally, I was working on a video highlighting some of the undocumented or hidden changes to come with patch 6, but in reading through posts, I just found numerous reports of users crashing for the first time after this update, and even some reports of some players soft locking their saves, like they'll take an action that basically locks down their save game and then immediately their save will crash as they load into it. But what is honestly one of the strangest parts about all of this, and I'm sure some of you can relate to this, is there's also a bunch of people with zero problems. There are quite a few posts out there of people encountering all kinds of various problems in the game right now, but then others playing on the exact same platform and same game version without mods and not having any issues whatsoever. As of right now, it definitely seems like consoles are getting hit the worst, but even despite the issues, Larian has been very quick to respond to all of this. In the week since patch 6's release, 2 new hotfixes have dropped. The first one addressed a variety of the new vendor-related bugs from patch 6. I honestly didn't even bother highlighting many of these because they are fixed now, but chests and vendors did have a variety of issues pop up with patch 6, as well as lag and crashing. And in their follow-up hotfix, a bunch of other things were addressed and resolved. Lots of the broken kissing animations were fixed. There was an issue where you could hide your entire group on console, but the group unhide wouldn't work, so you'd have to go through individually dealing with that. And even character creation sliders having their numbers removed, but thankfully Larian reverted this. this. So on one hand, a really good look from Larian. You have this incredibly buggy update go out, but then within 7 days, you have 2 hotfixes ship out, and of course more on the way. But there is a pretty important piece of context, and that is the persistence of some of these issues, which is in turn leading to, even with several hotfixes, much of the community still being pretty upset right now. Baldur's Gate 3 has had some incredibly buggy updates in the past. Hotfix 4 was the big one. They actually pulled back the update because it was causing so many problems, where it effectively locked players out of certain saves due to a compiler corruption. And after that whole fiasco and a lot of the community getting very frustrated, they made it clear that any change to future versions will undergo our comprehensive QA pipeline, including in-house QA, automated and unit testing, and save game compatibility testing. That happened all the way back in August, and as we are sat here, a week removed from yet another very buggy update, there are a lot of fans that are just pissed off right now and wondering how on earth did this happen again. Although, as all of this is going on, Larian has managed to create a separate and independent issue from this, as many modders just hit their breaking point with Larian and the community support that's being offered from them. So for a bit of context here, many PC users play modded Baldur's Gate 3, and like many games out there, Baldur's Gate 3 has a community-made script extender. This will occasionally break with updates, and that's expected, but what was unexpected is one of the hotfixes to resolve some of the issues from patch 6 also broke this, and in fact, this time a lot was reworked around the game's exe file. So instead of just a simple fix and update for the script extender, much more intensive and hands-on work would be required. So on one hand, you have frustration because it's an even longer delay to play the game, but then also from the modder side, like, what are you doing? Why is this happening? Thankfully, the next hotfix did revert those changes because they were made in error, so everything's good now. But while this was going on the official Larian Discord, some mod authors, and really one user in particular named Maze, were helping users around some of these issues to pop up around updates and mods not working. And while we're looking at a specific issue that popped up right around patch 6, it seems like these mod authors were really the main line of support in the Larian Discord. They've been there for months helping out users because Larian isn't. Maze specifically had created several guides to help resolve common community issues, and many of these guides were even pinned on the support channels of the official Larian Discord. After the recent hotfix and things breaking, one other user offered up their own Baldur's Gate EXE to help others downgrade the game. And now, of course, there was pushback from the modders that have been acting as support in this channel because just in general, downloading a random EXE file is not recommended. That's a very easy way to get a virus, and if you've been on the internet for a while, you probably know that. So this starts to turn into a situation where you have one user distributing EXE files and saying, oh yeah, download it, it'll help resolve the issue you're having with Baldur's Gate 3. But then all of these other mod authors who have been acting as the support arm saying, hey, don't do that. And as you can imagine, things pretty quickly devolved into a back and forth Discord argument. And one of the big reasons for this is, despite many pings to moderators or even community managers, nobody was there to help. Until eventually one moderator did come around and respond, basically saying everyone needs to be nice to each other, but not taking action or not even removing some of those distributed EXE files. So then we have a frustrated modder wondering why the moderation took so long to respond, but then even further didn't actually do anything. And they respond saying how that if somebody downloads that EXE and breaks their game, it'll be their responsibility to fix that, because they're the ones sitting in the support channels all day helping other users. To which the moderator does respond, who says you have to, implying that it's not really their job to help others fix the game. And this is where things really hit the breaking point. Not so much just because of this individual comment, but due to months of pent-up resentment and frustration about how things are being handled by Larian on the community side. These modders feel like they've been the main and really only support of this kind since the game's release, spending tons of their free time helping users while Larian and other Discord moderators aren't. So then for that same Discord moderator to turn around and make comments like this does become particularly insulting. Following this comment, things devolved even further. Lots of frustrations were aired, but largely the community managers and Discord moderators remained silent as modders became increasingly upset over this. But eventually several of these mod authors were muted or banned from the Discord altogether. Some of the support channels got a 2-hour slow mode, so you could only post once every 2 hours, and eventually that was actually up to a 6-hour slow mode, effectively nullifying any real support that could be given. And during this period of silence, many of those community guides were removed, now citing back to that initial disagreement and comments made by the moderator, as well as several popular mods have been removed from Nexus over all of this. We did see that original moderator apologize, and a day after all this went down, we even have seen Larian themselves begin to comment on some of these issues. This all happened a few days ago, and Larian has been way more active on the community Discord and reviewing some of the decisions that have been made, and a larger response eventually did come from Larian, as they seem to have recognized that this was a major issue and they're making some changes to attempt to resolve it. They describe how the situation has made it clear to them that they need to be clearer on offering player support, and they have since updated their official FAQ on dealing with modded save games. They're updating the Discord server rules and updating automod mod, and they mention reaching out to mod authors individually for feedback and to make sure these changes are working. But even as just a simple commentary on this, about 60 to 70% of this particular community manager's posts on the official Larian Discord came in the last 72 hours or so, aka over half of their postings happened after all of this went down. Seems like they've been a community manager for a couple of months now, and it seems like there definitely was some merit to those lack of communication complaints. But either way, clearly it seems like Larian's taking notice. Again, we've seen way more activity from them, as well as several larger scale announcements, and they seem to recognize that something needs to change. And now time will tell how some of these changes impact things. The interesting part about this was, as you probably heard, Larian also made some big announcements around mod support in Baldur's Gate 3. The timing of this was pretty interesting, as a part of their larger response. Almost a day or two after all of this drama goes down, they announce all of these mod plans, with them saying, "We're working on official mod support and have been for a while. We want the very best for you," which includes establishing a pipeline that lets mod authors release their mods across different platforms. Together with the platform holders, we are working to make this a reality. We're forming a team to support mod curation. We're aiming to offer modding support for things like classes, UI, customization, spells, and certain assets and game mechanics. As this is no small task, we hope to introduce the initial stages of modding support in our next big patch, which is still several months away. Frustrated as you may be right now, we're keen to work with you on this, and have plans to reach out to popular mod authors to talk further and work together to avoid issues in the future. And even further, they seem to confirm on Twitter that they are in fact planning mod support for not only PC, but consoles as well, which is honestly huge. Bethesda is the grand example of console mods working. Those mods get tons of downloads, sometimes even more than their PC counterparts, and it's likely one of the major reasons why both Fallout 4 and Skyrim have never left the top 50 games on Xbox since joining Game Pass after the buyout. A lot of people play those games, and a lot of people are downloading mods for those games. That's just where things stand right now. Obviously, over time, things will continue to evolve and expand, but if you are interested in how epic mods can end up being as a free download for a game, check out this video.